We're learning that a Trump-endorsed MAGA star who's running for governor, his aide was accused of child molestation, has been alleged to have shared nude photos of himself to young girls, and also made a racist rant. Donald Trump endorsed this person's boss with absolutely zero vetting. And we're going to get into all of that. But you know who's not upset about this? JD Vance. I think it's something we're not talking a lot about. JD Vance kind of been MIA, and I wonder why. I think it's because JD Vance is planning to try to dethrone the king. Here's Lincoln Project asserting that very thing.
Oops, Donald. You thought you sent JD Vance to talk to Rupert Murdoch about stopping the Epstein story. Well, that didn't work. But there's something you should worry about, Donald. Something you should think about. What if JD Vance cuts a deal with Rupert? Maybe JD Vance and Rupert figured out the succession. Who comes after you? They don't want to wait. Maybe they talked about when to start the 25th Amendment process to take you out. You should have sent Don Jr. or someone else that you could trust. Because you know JD Vance will tell anybody whatever it takes to get what he wants. And Rupert, he won't just listen to JD. He'll take action. And if JD and Rupert get their way, you'll lose, Donald. You'll lose everything.
I love that. And I got to tell you, I worked for the Lincoln Project. I was their communications director in 2020. Wow. Feels like yesterday, but also a long time ago in politics. And I know for a fact, not only does he pay attention to these things, but they work. They get into his head. And this is a masterful way of creating divide within MAGA, one that's already there. And what you want to do is create tension in the highest ranks of the White House. And that, what I think this does expertfully. And I will say, too, that I actually think that might be what's happening. That JD Vance is just waiting in the wings, hoping that this is the thing that takes him down. Now, I also got to say that Donald Trump was asked about Epstein yesterday, and he just walked away. He walked away. Watch this.
With China. Thank you.
Mr. President, what did you think Epstein was stealing those women for?
Thank you, press.
What do you think Epstein was stealing those women for? He just walks away, and I love that this pops up. So this is still haunting him. It's plaguing him. And this is what they were asking about, because Donald Trump, I'm not going to let this up. Donald Trump asked about how Epstein was recruiting girls from a spa, and he actually admitted that's what this was about, that young girls were recruited from Epstein. I wonder what for. And we now know that Virginia Giuffre was one of them. But before we get to that, real quick, I just want to point out that I am working with Oath, and as we're hearing about all these Republicans who are acting up, let's just make sure that they don't have power. So I'm working with them to flip the Senate, and I have some of the 3 most flippable races here and ones that we got to keep, like John Ossoff, and also Roy Cooper and Chris Pappas in New Hampshire, North Carolina. So if you are interested in making sure Republicans don't have power, and when Donald Trump nominates a Supreme Court justice, it doesn't get through, please, 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 please donate.
Just curious, were some of the workers that were taken from you, were some of them young women?
Were some of them?
Were some of them young women?
Well, I don't want to say, but everyone knows the people that were taken, and it was the concept of taking people that work for me is bad, but that story's been pretty well out there, and the answer is yes, they were.
Yes, they were young
Yeah.
women.
What did they do?
In the spa.
In the spa.
Yeah, it's people that work in the spa. I have a great spa, one of the best spas in the world at Mar-a-Lago, and people were taken out of the spa, hired by him. In other words, gone. And other people would come and complain, this guy is taking people from the spa. I didn't know that. And then when I heard about it, I told him, I said, listen, we don't want you taking our people, whether it was spa or not spa. I don't want him taking people. And he was fine, and then not too long after that, he did it again, and I said, out of here.
What's amazing about that is that MAGA had created this whole narrative that Donald Trump was stopped being friends with Jeffrey Epstein because Jeffrey Epstein, he found out, was doing what he's doing with young girls. That was the MAGA story, that when Donald Trump found out, he kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago, never to be seen again. They were no longer friends. Then Donald Trump said this thing, which makes it actually brings up more questions about what were those young girls doing at the spa? What were those young girls doing with Jeffrey Epstein? We now know that Virginia Giuffre was one of them. And as that's all happening, as I said, it's just interesting to me that the same shit is following all these people, whether it's Trump or not, that there's a kind of like culture around this stuff. So a MAGA star's top aide was accused of child molestation. Now, Donald Trump has endorsed Byron Donalds to become governor of Florida. He will likely win the Republican primary. Donalds has used Trump's endorsement to barnstorm the state and crucially has raised $22 million for the race. And he's capitalized on his MAGA profile. If he won, he'd be the first black governor of Florida and the first black Republican governor since the Reconstruction era. Wow, that's a big deal. Sad it will likely be Donalds. Now, as it says here, the president did not properly vet him. He was just friends with Donalds. He was like, all right, fine, you can get the endorsement. For almost all of his political career, until now, until when all this stuff came out, Donalds has had Wilcoxson at his side. What a name for someone accused of this stuff. The pair, both 46, have posed for many photos together, including one with Trump since 2013, and have celebrated Thanksgiving together. These two were very close. The relationship has been lucrative for Wilcoxson. Records show Donaldson has paid Wilcoxson, who called the congressman a brother away from home, over $300,000 in reimbursements and for consulting services. So Donalds has paid $300,000 to an alleged child molester. Wilcoxson will not be paid as a consultant for his gubernatorial race after this came out, but Wilcoxson, and I have much more in-depth detail of the crimes in just a minute, but Wilcoxson was charged with molesting a child while working as a substitute teacher in Indianapolis, Indiana. That was dropped. Wilcoxson previously said that black men did not commit such crimes, and then said this racist tirade that with white men, it's bombs, it's serial killers, it's child molestation. He told the Daily Beast on Wednesday that he never harmed anyone. This is not a person who has a clean record, regardless. Wilcoxson's own record would certainly raise eyebrows for anyone vetting Donalds. This is who Donald Trump has endorsed, someone who is working closely with someone with this profile. In 2006, while working on a substitute teacher in Indianapolis, Indiana, he was alleged to have given a teenage girl a nude photo of himself, which police said she then showed to some classmates. The child reportedly told police that she had a crush on Wilcoxson, and authorities alleged that he molested her in his car near school. Wilcoxson was held on bond of $100,000. A year later, the case was dropped for unstated reasons. Wilcoxson told the Beast that he would never touch a child. Who do you believe? That sounds all very real to me. I don't know why this was dropped. Obviously, we won't know for sure ever, but it seems like there's a lot of smoke. Now, also in 2006, the Indianapolis Star reported that he was dismissed as a substitute teacher for allegedly exposing himself to a custodian. Wilcoxson also denied this has ever happened. In 2013, he was fired as a Hertz rental clerk at an airport in Naples, Florida, and then convicted of driving a car for months without permission. Cops found a purportedly missing vehicle in his driveway and arrested him, despite his pleas that he was allegedly renting the car. He was sentenced to 6 months in prison for grand theft auto. However, that conviction was vacated in 2022 after it was discovered that Hertz had systematically submitted incorrect reports of stolen vehicles nationwide. So he was let go on a technicality, but it did happen. He stole a car. In 2022, he was captured on camera lunging at a former Florida school board member's husband during a Republican executive committee meeting. Here is that video.
Then last Wednesday, this happened. Donald's campaign aide, Larry Wilcoxson, being restrained by a deputy and others after Lichter's husband, Nick, tells me he lunged at him during the Collier County Republican Executive Committee meeting, a room filled with fellow Republicans. During the Collier County Republican Executive Committee meeting, a room filled with fellow Republicans.
And then in 2023, this is the person that Donald was working closely with up until this all came out, and who Donald Trump has endorsed. In 2023, his then fiancée, Melissa, came in, filed an injunction for protection against him. She alleged that she was picked up, thrown in on the kitchen counter, and held against her will by Wilcoxson. She also alleged that after she fled, he found her more than 100 miles away, broke into her car, and scattered her belongings on the street. One more. He was charged with battery in 2003 for allegedly striking someone with a stick in a street fight, and then in 2013 for allegedly attacking a car detailer. That's just such a long list of alleged crimes. It's insane to me. And this person was working with presumably, unless there's a miracle, presumably the next governor of Florida, who Donald Trump has endorsed. And Donald Trump just seems to love hanging around with people with this sort of profile. Diddy and Epstein being the most recent. So yeah, that's MAGA. I mean, MAGA is, it seems like they complain about drag queens, trans people, and immigrants when they really should be looking at themselves. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit like on the video. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. We are almost at 700,000 subscribers. Every subscription helps us get closer to that milestone, an amazing milestone. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.